Welcome to the Atlanta Men's Workshop speaker and workshop recordings. Atlanta Men's Workshop is held every spring and fall at the Rock Eagle 4-H campus in Eatonton, Georgia. That's just about an hour east of Atlanta, Georgia. Please visit our website at atlantamensworkshop.com or see the link below to find dates and details to join us. Partial scholarships are available to those in need. We hope you enjoy this presentation, and we hope you will come join us at the Rock. Until then, we shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Good evening, guys. My name's Alan Lyon. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Alan.
This is the Financial Sobriety Workshop. Does everyone know the third step prayer? Okay, perfect. All right. We're going to say that in just a minute. This is all, just so you know, these are my notes, and the steps and system that is what is the system that I take sponsees. I've taken my a couple of my wife's sponsees through this system, and they've gotten free. Okay. This is also, I basically took something that started here at the Rock about 7 years ago with a workshop that Paul McGee led called Financial Sobriety or Sober Pocketbook or something like that, and then I've incorporated some Dave Ramsey, some Crown Ministries, some various different financial deals that have really helped me. So I just took it, what was in my head, and the system that I take people through, with bringing all that together to be free. So no, none of this is trademarked or copyrighted. So this is just right off. It's just what I do. All right, so I want to pray this prayer over us here real quick. God, help me to trust in your promises and rely on your provision. I choose to lay down my worries and anxieties surrounding money and believe that you are in control of my financial situation. Please give me wisdom to make good decisions with my finances and guide me as I manage your resources. Amen. All right. And so now as a group, let's say the third step prayer together. God, offer ourselves to thee,
to build with me, do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help. Thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always.
Amen. So, and y'all have started reading this already. So what's your why? What's your why? Why get your finances in order? What's the pain? What's the pain point? I'm going to tell you mine here in just a minute, and Chris is going to tell you a little bit about himself. Be real brief. And so, what's your financial distress story? Are you willing to go to any lengths to never have to experience whatever that pain is again? Really? So, Chris, you want to start us off with your...
With my whatever? Sure.
With your whatever. Yeah.
With my whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Sure. Evening, family. I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. My name's Chris. So, I guess my history prior to getting here is pretty much like everybody else's, right? I mean, I had money, I spent it. I love hearing stories, and this is not a knock on anybody's story who says it, but I love hearing people say, well, I lost this, I lost that. I didn't lose anything. I willingly gave it all. I gave it all to the liquor store. I gave it all to the dope man. So let's just be really clear. Anything that I had, anything that I stole, anything that I pawned went right there, right? So let's fast forward to, now probably 18-ish, 17-ish years ago. I went from that with a history of various arrests and all sorts of other things to holding several federal securities licenses to buy, sell, and trade securities either on my own behalf or on other people's behalf. Now, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that's a miracle. Because when they did my background check, I could answer every question honestly, right? Like, yes, I did that. And I'll just tell you one other quick question. So I was going through my last financial background check, and they do a full federal FBI profile on you. And an arrest that I had that I thought that I had taken care of legitimately came up in Missouri. And I'll tell you why I mention it in a minute. So I had to call the state of Missouri and say, hey, listen, this is who I am. Tell me what the deal is. And the lady had spent some time looking it up, and she said, called me back, and she said, well, here's the deal. We don't have any record of you ever having completed all of the court and court-ordered programs. So I didn't turn in any of my paperwork to the court. And she said, it's roughly going to be, just shy of 20 grand, right? And I said, okay, well, let's figure out how I pay you. And I said, I'm a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I've been sober at that time now 14 years when I had to do this. And she said, all right, I'll call you back. A couple of days later, she called me back and said, listen, I spoke to the judge, and you clearly are a success story. So we don't know how or why, but we're going to wipe the whole slate clean. All right. Now, I only tell you that because I was ready and willing to pay them that just short of $20,000, by whatever means necessary. And we're going to talk about how to go and do that. It's not necessarily borrowing it on credit, right? Not in that particular instance. But these things come up. Life comes up. So you're asking me my why. That's the first one. The second one, and this is not a commentary on anything social, but man, oh man, are we given every opportunity at every turn? And this is coming from the guy who was the financial guy. Are we given the opportunity at every corner? Let's just swipe the credit card, right? Listen, I mean, I had it the other day. Somebody called me and said, we're organizing money for North Carolina. I said, yeah, I'll bring you some cash. We don't take cash. Okay? I wasn't going to put however many percent on my donation going to North Carolina. Again, it's not a social discussion. It's just, that's my why. So, thanks, guys.
All right, so my why. My sobriety date's May 10th, 2011, and I came to my first rock in October of that year, 2011. And so I was sober, and I had to change careers. I used to be a home builder and all that stuff. Got the economy tanked, got relapsed, came back, and I needed a new career. I got a new career. Went to school, got a new career. And I was making good money. Me and my ex-girlfriend, we were splitting the bills, 50-50, blah, blah, blah. And I was making enough money. I was making decent money to live, And one day, I was a service tech, air conditioning service tech. So I was driving to work down. And one day, I was hungry at lunchtime. And I pulled into Burger King in Tucker. And I ordered a Whopper Junior with cheese meal. At that time, they were about $5.99, right? With the drink. Came with the drink. Pulled up. I was hungry, right? It's lunchtime. And I'm making good money, right? Decent money. Nothing crazy, but I was making good money. Pulled up and gave her my debit card, and she swiped it, and it got declined for like $6.24. And the reason why I can remember those details is because it devastated me. I was devastated. I was hungry, And here I was making good money, but I was hungry. I went hungry. I think maybe I scrounged up enough to get a pack of crackers that day. I don't really remember. I didn't go. Anyway, that devastated me. That didn't send me to the rock and go to that workshop because the timing just didn't happen like that. But that was my why. That was my pivot point right there. That was my bottom, if you will. I was raised by two accountants, and it wasn't a lack of knowledge. I knew how to do spreadsheets. I knew how to add and subtract and divide and do all that good stuff. It was not a lack of knowledge. It was a lack of desire, a lack of willingness. Sound familiar? Yeah. So, it was probably that next rock. I came and we were over in the banker's building, and Paul McGee led that workshop. And he laid out some really basic, simple principles that we're going to kind of cover tonight. And, and that's my why. You know, that was the beginning of my why. And I can tell you that fast forward after practicing this system, my family lives on this system. Not carrying any debt, living on a budget, living intentional, staying sober on purpose. Okay? Telling my money where to go instead of my money telling me where to go. My money lasting longer than my month. Who all knows that? 27th, the 20th, you got to kind of hold on till the end. Yeah. That's whatever your why is, you know. So I'm just going to kind of expound on some of my notes here. But I was talking to a guy, and he said, yeah, my check on the 1st is for rent, and my check on the 15th is for utilities. And I was like, dude, what? That didn't make any sense to me. I was like, I mean, I got what he was saying, you know. I got that was where he was at mentally with it, because that's just the way he grew up. That's the culture he grew up in, you know. And I was like, so if your rent is due on the 1st and you spend the first check and all of it's gone, what do you do till the 15th? I don't know. You know? Stays hungry, you know? Money, you know, month lasting longer than your money. 2 areas that cause alcoholics and addicts to relapse more than anything else is discouragement and hopelessness in the areas of romance and finance. If you don't believe me, ask anybody who's been sober a while. Pink and green. Right. So that's right. God, I hope that's going to be recorded, but that's fine. It is what it is. I mean, let's be honest, you know.
We'll edit that out.
We'll edit that? No, some of it.
Go on.
So here's what I'll say is that in the third step prayer, we've decided we've got a new employer. That's why I wanted to do the third step prayer as a group. Which means we are now dealing with and in charge of God's money. It's not my money anymore. My money got me getting nothing to eat that day. That was me managing my money. You know? So because in that third step prayer it says we got a new employer, and that means the checks don't come from them. It comes from Him. So let's see. One thing we will not be addressing this evening is if you're not making enough money problems. Okay? That's career advisement. You know what I mean? That's career counseling kind of stuff. We can't really help you with that. That's a sponsor thing. That's some other man in the program that you really look up to kind of thing. What we can really talk about, which is what I've found as being most people's problem, is their spending. You know? Can't not have Amazon deliver stuff. Just can't stop swiping buy now. Just can't drive past a convenience store without buying something. You know? So that's what I found. And then I had this one girl, and she just had an affinity for buying all these fancy cheeses at Publix. I was like, seriously? You really a cheese connoisseur like that? And I get it. But she was also broke, making good money. And I was like, is that really a big deal for you? Is that something, is that a deal breaker? You want to stay broke because of that? Anybody know what Murphy's Law is? Yeah. What about regarding money? If something can happen that will cost you money, it will happen. Will happen. You know when you'll blow out a tire? When you don't have a dime to pay for it. I don't know about y'all, tires on my car are $300 or $400 a piece these days. Well, they're not that much, but after tax, so maybe $200-300. Sean's car, they're about $400 or $500 a piece. You know what happens whenever people that don't have the cash to pay for that tire, their tires blow out. I don't know why that is. I don't know why. That's Murphy's Law. The crazy thing is that when you got $1,000 at least in cash that you put your hands on, guess what? Guess what doesn't happen? You don't necessarily blow out tires, and when you do, you're not sweating it. Another story. Another girl, one of my wife's other sponsees, she had some issue with her car after she had saved up $1,000 in cash. She didn't sweat about it. It didn't rack her. Okay? That's pretty freaking cool. And I know that sounds to some people like, oh, that's not a lot of money. I can throw $1,000 into an account right now. Then why haven't you? Why don't you have $1,000 in a safe at your house? I do. I have bank accounts and all that stuff. Then why don't you? So, and here's a great one. People don't understand this one too much, but who all has? If you look at the calculator on your phone, do you have a God button on your calculator? You will. You can. I do. So, what if I told you there was one? What we're going to do is show you how to expose the God button on your phone or on your calculator because it's there. It's a combination of the add, multiply. Yeah, it really is. My wife had a hip surgery and she went on what do they call that 60% pay, disability. And I was still making the same amount of money. And somehow we still got our roof. We still re-roofed our house in cash. With only 60% of her income. We had our house painted and paid cash for it. Because somehow the money kept showing up. Okay? We were making 40% less. So, anyway, Chris? Keep going. Okay. So what we're gonna cover is where's the money going, and do you know where your money's going? Most of us get in a lot of trouble using debit cards and credit cards. Why? We can't touch, feel, and see the money going out of our hands. We do the math in our heads. Oh, I got enough. Who's ever thought that? I got enough. Swipe. Without knowing at all what you have in the account. You need to know where the money's going, so let's keep track of it. Okay? There are two different types of spending. This is getting into the nuts and bolts, so we are going to get into nuts and bolts. So that's kind of the overview, some spiritual stuff there. There's two types of spending. There's fixed expenses, bills that are the same every month. These are things that keep you living indoors and able to get to work. Okay? Not food. Notice I didn't say that. Living indoors and able to get to work. Rent, mortgage, HOA, car payment. These are all things that don't change every month. They're the same amount. Okay? Car insurance, cell phone bill, utilities, hopefully. You're on a budget billing plan, but if you're not, you'll get on one where it's the same amount every month. You know what it is. Life insurance, etc. Two, the other type is everything else that usually fluctuates from month to month, or that some would consider luxuries. And believe it or not, groceries can be luxuries. The young lady that was buying all that fancy cheese, we're talking to the tune of $200, $300 sometimes in a week on fancy cheese. At Publix. Now, that ain't that fancy a cheese, okay? That ain't where you get the real pinky out stuff, okay? Physical well-being, energy drinks, vapes, smokes, things like that. Okay? Those are two different types of things that we're going to be talking about. All right. So, How many people are cash only? I'm not, but I'm just saying, if you are, raise your hand. Cash only, right? Cash only. Okay, very good, very good. All right. This will be a little easier for you. I was debit card only when I first started this process, and that's what got me in trouble. I switched to cash only. And here's how I did it. Well, I only withdrew in $20 increments whenever I needed cash. My bank statement went from 10 pages long to 2 pages long. Because I would get in $20 increments when I went grocery shopping, I'd get $120. Okay? But anyway, that was whenever I got into budget. So, the very first step that Paul McGee said to do was track where your money's going. And here's what I did was I didn't change any of my spending habits. But I had a composition book. Hopefully all of you are writing inventories and have plenty of composition books when they're 75 cents a piece, right? Yeah. I got one of those, and I got an envelope and a binder clip, and I clipped it to the top of that book, and I kept it right between the seat of my, in my car. And that's where I kept my cash in the envelope, and I had this binder and this composition book, and I drew lines down the page. And I wrote dates down the left column. Okay? And what I did was every time I spent any money, I wrote it down. Every time I went to the gas station, didn't change a single spending habit. And I kept track of it. And then he also suggested looking at things in categories. Convenience store was one of mine, because I spent a lot of money in convenience stores. Groceries. AA. AA. I was dropping a couple dollars in the basket every time, or $1. What was some other ones? Groceries. May have said that, or gas. Gas was a separate one because it's pretty big expense, but I'd not put convenience stores in another one. Eating out. That's what I'm talking about. Go broke eating out, can't you? Yeah. What else? I think that was it. I kept it fairly simple. Okay? That's what the categories are for. It's what type of spending there is going on. Because later on, that's going to help us later. So, get a fresh notebook. Cross it, date where you're spending money in categories. Do this for 3 months. Don't worry, guys, all you debit card guys, I'm going to get to how to do the debit card. Because there is a way to do it. Okay? All right. And you can kind of see what that kind of looked like right there. It wasn't that fancy, obviously. It was squiggly line down the page because I was using a pen and handwriting it, okay? But for illustration's sake, you get it? All right, with a debit card, this is what I have people do. Print out 3 months of bank statements. 3 months. 3 months. And with that, I'm going to get, let's say, 5 or 6 different highlighter colors. And what I'm going to do, what I have people do is go through and look at those 2 different types of expenses. What I have them do is with the fixed expenses, don't even highlight those. We'll get back to those. Maybe circle them with a pen. I take those other categories, eating out, groceries, convenience store. I find my categories and I highlight those, highlight those. And I'll tell you, a lot of people will start to really feel real guilty at this point. You start going, oh my God, this isn't the time to do it. This isn't the time to do that. This is a fact-finding and fact-facing inventory is what it is. And we're not even at the inventory part. We're just identifying what things are. Pink, green, purple, yellow, orange. Just going through and doing that. Then what I have them do is on a piece of paper, have all their highlighted colors. Orange, purple, yellow, I don't know, or other color, the 5 or 6 colors that they have. Aquamarine, there you go. I love it. Yes. Not black, okay? Don't use a black highlighter on this one, okay? We're not redacting anything, okay? Yeah, right, yeah, exactly. And then the very first thing is in each month, add up those categories, okay? In each month. This will make it easier. This is just math. All the oranges in 1 month equal this. All the yellows in 1 month equal this. All the greens in 1 month equal this. Make sense? Because this is real simple. Once we've done that all 3 months, what we do is we take a separate piece of paper, total all 3 months up. Now, Rick knows where I'm going with this. And divide by 3. And that's the average of what we've been spending every month on groceries. It's the average of what notice now, no spending habit has changed one bit. And what I'll tell you is that the cool thing about this is that I spend money on the things that are important to me. Okay? And what we're not going to be doing we're not going to put ourselves on a salt and pepper diet here. You know what I mean? Because that's miserable. Diets suck. What we're going to learn is some discipline. Okay? So, let me see. Is everybody tracking with me so far? Is this helpful at all? It's helping me. So, okay, good. Okay. All right. Step 2. Add each category up. You see what we did here. This is exactly the example. Groceries. 400, and obviously these numbers are just follow. Grocery for March, April, May. Totaled that. Divide by 3 equals 458. Fuel. Eating out. Fun. Whoa, what happened in May? Good Lord. Whoa. Crazy. Might be why this guy's in trouble. But you notice we still identify that, okay? Because that's an important thing. Fun is fun. Fun is important, okay? And we're gonna fix it into a budget. All right. Step 3. Now we're going to list all of our fixed expenses and averages of the month right there. Fixed and fluctuating expenses. This is So on the ones like eating out, miscellaneous, fuel, groceries, we just put the averages in there. We also added rent, which is a fixed. HOA, if you live somewhere, whatever. Car insurance, which is a fixed thing. Health insurance, car payment. Groceries is flexible. You see, we blended the two. We added the two because that's the categories, total categories, what we're spending. No. Chris is going to interject right as I'm about to make a great point. Okay. Is this all? Everybody's with me? Okay. All right. Is this brand new news to anybody? Does it make sense? You see what I'm saying? I told you this was simple. But that's why I started with the why. Because this staying sober, doing what we do in AA is simple. It's simple. It ain't easy, but it's simple, right? Okay. All right. Doing this and doing this is two different things. You're exactly right. But with willingness, okay, and the right guidance and fellowship, do it, right? Okay. See how it tracks so closely?
Well, hold on one second. So you brought up an interesting point. Knowing this and doing this are two different things, right? All right. So how many of you all were given the information that you all were alcoholics or drug addicts and did anything about it? No, I'm not being smart. I'm being 100% serious, right? And I'm not. Look, I'm truly not louding you out. I'm really not. And I only say that because for a lot of people, and I managed finances for a lot of fairly wealthy people, who still would do similar nonsense to some of the things that you see go on here, right? And it has to get that painful. Is my only point in saying that, right? Now there are some creative ways to overcome some of this stuff, right? How many of y'all go to either Costco or Sam's or there's a new one, BJ's, Truly, right? There's how many of y'all go to Kroger and have a Kroger card, right? And I'm being serious because we're talking about the fixed expenses, because food's one of them, right? So is your fuel, not fixed, but the average expense. Sorry. But so we have, for us, we have the Harris Teeter thing, which is essentially Kroger, right? But you buy the membership, which you think, well, all right, I'm not going to spend an extra whatever it is on a membership. But what it does do is it gives you extra points back on your gas. And I only say it because I'm now driving a V8 Ford F-150, right? And I mean, I drive a fair amount. And the last time that I filled up on gas, I paid $1.23 a gallon. Right. Okay? So there are ways to overcome it. So don't think that just because, you may not have enough money in one category that he's talking about doesn't mean that it can't be overcome. I don't want you to think that it's one of these things where you just go, well, it's doing this and talking about it are two different things.
Right.
That's true.
So we are going to get to that, though. Because right now, this is the fact finding. This is the inventory part. We're just looking at the facts. And this is why everyone sees the problem here, right? Okay, so next, subtract your net income, which is the money you take home, your take-home income, from your total expenses. Anybody see a problem with that? Does everyone see a problem with that? Okay. Going in the hole every month. Okay? And then somehow when you go to the grocery store, it's like, oh yeah, no, I need to go ahead and swipe my credit card. And guess what? I don't swipe my credit. I have credit cards. We have a couple. Me and my wife have a couple. We don't spend it on, we do not swipe our credit card on consumables. Stuff that we're going to eat. Sorry, I was going to be a little more graphic, but stuff that we eat or that stuff that's going to evaporate or finish off quickly. Okay? All right. I'll say this. The reason why we don't beat ourselves up at this point is because you are here at this moment desiring for God to make you trusted servant of His finances. That's why you're here in this room. You may not think you are. You think you're here for something else. God's doing something different in your life right now. By putting you here at this workshop, at the Rock, and in this room. Believe it. All right. So, up to the point we've lived our lives only how we thought things should be done, and it hasn't worked so well, obviously. All right. Step 4. This is where we put all that thinking into praying. Page 86 says we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. After making our review, we ask, and that's a prayer, okay? God's forgiveness, and inquire what corrective measures should be taken, okay? Where and on what have you been spending more than you should? Because it's one thing, you can go to Costco. You can go to Costco and BJ's and all that stuff, but if every time you go in there and you're single and you're spending $200, that's a little bit of a freaking problem. You see what I'm saying? And sometimes Costco is not the best move. I mean, I'm okay with name brand stuff. I'm not non-name store brand stuff. But they have, this one thing, they have it in bulk, but it's a name brand thing. It's just being mindful of these things, Do I need that much? Maybe I do. A lot of people have kids, and that is a good deal. But it's a matter of just keeping track of that and keeping up with it. Me and my wife, we budget to go to Costco. Okay? That's part of our budget. Yes, we do have a ton of toilet paper until we don't. But we don't have to buy it for 3 months. Do you see what I'm saying? And we do buy it better than we do. You see what I'm saying? So we make sure of that. We make sure we're buying it good, buying it well. Right? Okay. Right. Yeah. Not the crappy kind. Toilet paper, we don't buy the crappy kind. So, okay. All right. Is there a way to buy these items in bulk, like Chris was saying? How much is a pack of cigarettes? $8? $10 a pack. How much is a carton? 57. Wow. And there's 10 pack. Okay. Once a week. There you go. Okay. Well, if you're smoking a pack a day, when I was smoking a pack a day, they were $6 a pack, and a carton, which is 10 packs of cigarettes, was $56. That's $5.70 a pack. Now I know we're talking about smoking, and that's bad for you, but whatever. Like you get my point. Whenever I buy my vape juice, for example, half off Wednesdays, man. There you go. See what I'm saying? So. Yes, I did. Hey, man, I mean, we're just being real around here. I mean, I'm still addicted to nicotine, okay?
Hey, let me stop right here real quickly, since we're taking inventory, okay? No, I'm being serious. So this is one of the conversations that goes on in our house. First of all, how many of y'all have kids? Okay. So how many of y'all, as soon as you go to the grocery store, kids walk in the door, we don't have anything to eat in the house, right? Meanwhile, what's sitting in the refrigerator? From when? Not even that. From the night before, right? How many kids swear, oh, I'll eat that tomorrow? And then what happens? And then it's a month later, and it's got this nice green fuzzy layer on the top of it, right? The reason that I said inventory is I have this conversation with our family all the time, right? It's not the 1 or 2 times that you take leftovers and throw them in the trash. It's the 1 or 2 times a week, every week, for 52 weeks out of the year that you do that. And my kids will say, well, it's only $3 going in the trash. You're right. That time. So somebody do some quick math for me, all right? What's 3 times 52? 156. I have 2 kids. What's 156 times 2? Right? And then, whatever else, right? All that bulk buying that we don't need, whatever else. Think about how many times those items that Alan's talking about inventory go elsewhere. Just a thought.
Just a little trick from my sister-in-law. She has a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and they cook dinner. The kids don't want to eat it. She says, well, you can eat that or you can eat cashews. And if they don't want to eat that, they're eating cashews. Oh, that's a little trick. I love that. But that's all they're getting to eat. You know what I mean? What I cooked you is what you're going to get, because kids will eat Cheetos all day long if you give it to them, okay? So, anyway. You can. Yes. And that's a whole other conversation that we'll have outside, because let me tell you, man.
But it is, but listen, it's still that fact-finding mission, because this is, when I got that granular with leftovers, that's exactly what we're talking about doing. And the thing is, so back to the pain that we were talking about. Again, I'm not louding you out. I'm really not. But do this exercise for 1 month. Do it for 1 month. And then multiply that out for the other 11 months out of the year and see what you come up with. And that might be painful enough to go, holy mackerel, man, what am I doing?
Or it may add more pain to the pain you're already in here for. You know? So, all right. So, all right. Or the real, or really hard questions are like, do you really need that new car or truck? That's a tough one there. Can you move someone in to reduce rent or mortgage? My dad, who's very comfortable, the way he looks at his cars is, and he drove a 2008 Toyota RAV, whatever, and he had 250,000 miles on it. And he can afford a brand new BMW, okay? But the way he looked at it was the cost of repairs for the year didn't add up to a car payment for the year. So he kept driving it. I mean, and this is a man that can afford to, he did. He went and got a brand new big SUV, and I don't know why he makes payments on it. He can write a check for it. He just does it just to not, I don't know. Just likes being busy, I guess. He busies himself with writing a check once a month or something. I don't know. It's silly. My dad's that way. So, anyway. All right. So, here's a really big point. And I did hear this. Anyway, I won't say who because we're not doing that. But budgets are so that you can. Not that you can. How many people have thought about budgets and gone, golly, dang it. Hey, it's going to be nothing. But that's not the point. The point is that budgets help set us free from this bondage that we're in now. Maybe you don't know what that freedom looks like. But you're willing to go to any lengths to find out what it is. There's and I say that with budgeting because in a why, it helps to have a carrot to dangle in front. And for me, one of the things that, for me, I just wanted to get things, I didn't want to not be able to buy a $6 Happy Meal or whatever I was getting, That was enough for me. What quickly came out of it was how awesome it felt to put a $5 bill in the basket at a meeting. And I'm not talking about pull out my wallet and like that, and make sure everyone sees it. It wasn't that. Is that I put one in one day because a friend of mine modeled it to me and I saw him do it and he didn't do that number either. I was like, dang, he didn't make much more money than I do. And then when I put that 5 in the basket, I was like, man, something happened. Something magical happened inside of me. And I wanted more of that. That was one of my whys. I love altruism. I love doing that kind of stuff. And I'm not some philanthropy kind of guy. But it is to me, and I love that. But you can find your own. Could be traveling. Anybody gone on vacation and pay cash for it? I'm talking about a Florida vacation. There you go. It was nice, wasn't it? Yeah. So that's pretty dang cool. Freedom from the bondage of self-centeredness is our first goal. Our next goal is to live free from the bondage of Murphy and his damn law. That's pretty cool. All right. We stay sober on purpose, so let's manage God's money on purpose. After analyzing our spending, we've seen some areas that need to be tightened up. Notice that none of the categories went away. They just got tightened up. You may be tempted to swing to extremes, to the extreme of cutting everything out. Don't do this. Notice I have not said if you smoke, quit smoking. Okay? Didn't say that. If you like energy drinks, I'm not saying quit drinking energy drinks. That's not what we're talking about. Okay? That's not what I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay. So let's tighten things up just a little bit. Obviously, the fixed things. We haven't even gotten rid of that expensive car yet. Or not. That'll be up to you, between you and God, on what you cut out. That's why prayer is huge in this. While we continue to say that third step prayer and learn how to put it into place. So we tighten groceries up a little bit. Let me see here. Because it would be nice if there was a reference to go backwards on. Okay. So, groceries. Looked at groceries and went, well, I can't stop eating. Okay? We were at $4.58 on page 5, and now we said $3.75 is a little more reasonable. Right? You can do that with a couple of Publix brand. I don't shop at Publix. My wife likes their fruit, but that's it. Publix is, anyway. With a couple of store brands versus name brands. You can get there all from that difference in numbers. You can almost get there with that. Fuel in the car. You notice fuel in the car didn't change because we're still going to work and gas is still costing the freaking same, right? Okay. The miscellaneous spending. The things that I spent money on that fall in that miscellaneous category are things that I enjoy doing or I need to do, but maybe I need to be a little more intentional about it. Right? Does that make sense? Just be a little more intentional about it. Maybe I can take a different route, or maybe I can do something a little different and change Eating out. You notice I didn't cut eating out of there. This is what Alan did. This is what I did. I enjoy eating out. But I didn't need to eat out every freaking day. So what I did was I set a couple of guardrails for myself in eating out. One, and this was before this crazy inflation thing, okay, so just track with me on these numbers, was I would spend $20 on myself, and that was with a tip. With tip, okay? And I would only go out to eat whenever I was going to fellowship. And I went to several meetings a week. We would go to Matthew's, and I would spend 20 or less on Thursday nights. You know, you were there. I would go to a Friday night meeting at Terry at Biscayne, you know, with that group on Friday nights. And we would go out to dinner afterwards. And so I set, but I think my budget for a little while there was $60 a week of going out to eat. And those were all three meals, right? At $20 a meal with tip. You catch where I'm going with this? Is I made it with something with purpose. Okay? There was something to be gained out of that. Right? Not just rando all the time spending $150 a week. You know, on food that half of it got thrown away. You know? Or I overate. Good God, man, that's horrible. By the way, you can do that at Matthew's pretty easily. So, just saying. I'm not saying anything bad about that. Go ahead, Chris. And fun, you know, so I didn't cut fun out. Because fun's important too. Because obviously it was important because I was spending a lot of money on it before, right? Means I still like having fun, right? Okay. Guess Vanna's not gonna... Go ahead. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Thank you. Okay. Paying bills and yourself. This is where we tell God's money where to go. You know that 99% of the people we pay money to will take partial payments. How many people get paid once a week? I do. How many people get paid every other week? How many people get paid twice a month? I mean, it's not the same. If you get paid every other week, how many pay periods do you have in a year? There you go. If you get paid, there you go, because that's 26 pay periods. So 2 months out of the year, you have 3 paychecks. Yeah, exactly. I get paid once a week. It's just the way my company's set up, and I'm salaried, which is weird. Because the company I was at for 6.5 years, for 5 years of that, I got paid once a month. Once a month. But I had already been doing this, and so it didn't matter because I was paying me. All right. So, for this exercise, we're going to use the 2 pay periods a month. All right. Did you know that your landlord will take 2 payments? As long as you're not behind, okay? But if your rent's due on the 1st, they'll take half of it on the 15th and the other half on the 1st. Did you know the power company will do that? I do it. I still do it. I still pay my power bill twice a month. They won't charge you a late fee. Especially when it's due on the 1st, you make the first payment on the 15th. The 15th before the 1st. Okay, not the... There it is right there. He's like, oh yeah! Okay, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Your cell phone bill will do that too. This is going to be key right here in the pay, telling your money where to go. Get rid of automatic debits for a little while. Get rid of them. Because don't they always hit and you're like, where'd the money go? It's like, dang it. How many people have Audible and don't use it? I used it for a little while. I meant to use it. Yes, there you go. You know, you can, and how about this? On these subscriptions will kill you. Subscriptions will kill you. I mean, I don't know. Who's got over $100 worth of subscriptions? Automatic draft subscriptions. Do you use every single one of them? Internet's a utility. Okay. Internet's a utility. Because a lot of people don't have cable these days. I don't have cable, I have internet. Okay?
How many people know where to find what your monthly subscriptions are? Not necessarily, but that's part of it, sure. But there are probably a half a dozen apps out there that will help you find them and track them down and tell you this is what you're spending monthly. Right? And when you do that, again, you might be surprised. So there are several programs out there, either web-based or app-based, that will help you track your subscriptions. And when you go in there, you might be surprised at subscriptions that you thought you had canceled some time ago and you hadn't. Audible, right, is one. I mean, here was mine, right? I had XM and Spotify, right? Like, come on, man. I mean, right? No, nobody needs that. I certainly didn't. My son complained. Well, you know, we don't need two different music subscriptions. Cable was the one that is almost as bad as the storage unit, right? You'll turn around and next year you're going to be like, oh God, what happened to my extra $40? Cable went up. I got rid of the cable, right? They'll nickel and dime you to death. Just be careful with it.
The other place you'll find those is on your bank statements. When you go through and categorize, one of my categories was subscriptions. Now I have a line item in my budget for subscriptions. Subscriptions I use, okay? Because for some reason Apple will hit you for $1.99 and 99 cents, and it's like, what did I get that for? And since we're doing this work, go through and research and find out what all those silly subscriptions are. They may not be silly. They may be things that you really are using and you don't know it. But they may not be. And that's what we want to get rid of. On the music front, I just did some research because I went to the gym and I don't like commercials. I like listening to music. You know what I also like to do is I like to watch videos without commercials. So I looked into it, did some research. I didn't want to do just a music site. So I got YouTube. And I got the family plan. Share it with everybody in my family. And it's pretty doggone cool, you know. So anyway, that was just one of the ways that we kind of consolidated some things. And you get music with that too, uninterrupted. Well, there you go.
Well, and let me bring up one downside to the banking, and this is coming from the banker. And I know we've got to move on because we're running out of time. But what's the downside to tracking it on your bank account? Anybody know? When's your bank statement show up? What date? 7th or 8th, maybe, or in some cases later, right? When's your subscription hit? Right. And so what I'm saying to you is that your subscription, believe it or not, may or may not lag behind your bank account, right? So you're going, well, I'm paying that on time. Well, and you are, but you're actually still a month behind. That's the banking trick. Please do not be fooled, and I'll give you some others when it comes to credit and all the rest of it. Please do not be fooled. If your bank, I mean, we have a couple of different accounts at a couple of different banks for various reasons, right? And because of when we open them, they have different billing cycles. If you have moved one from one banking account to another, and it winds up on a different billing cycle, you're farther behind than you actually think you are. And your bank's not going to tell you that.
Okay, so from our previous, these are just example numbers, of course, but our total expenses at $32.86, and now bi-weekly we're at $16.45. If your income is $1,833, remember from the previous page, you can go back. Every 2 weeks, see page 5, and your expenses are $1,645, we've just discovered $188 every 2 weeks. And not much has changed. Not much. Some things have changed, but not much. Okay? You'd be surprised when you start doing this process, money just starts, the God button, it starts appearing. My wife, when she started this process, we were dating, and she was getting a little bit of money from a trust that her mom left her. She's a school teacher. She had 2 kids at the house and an empty basement with no renter, okay? And she was just paying minimum payments to everything. And I sat down in less than an hour, and we got her a renter like that because there was somebody waiting to rent that basement space. And I found $1,100 in her budget every month. $1,100 showed up just by looking at it and saying, and here's a cool thing. What was that? I want to say it was 18 or 19 months. She had $20,000 worth of debt. Student loans, credit cards, stuff like that. In 18 months. I think it was 19, but either way. She paid, as a school teacher now, a public school teacher with a renter, she paid off $20,000 worth of debt in 18 months. And put a whole set of tires on her, put all 4 tires on her car in cash, and paid cash for Christmas. Amazing, right? That's the God button. All because she started paying attention and got intentional. To her, you know what she gave up? Getting her nails done. And here's the crazy thing, she didn't even give that up. She just pushed it out a little bit longer. She got creative. If you ask her, that's all she'll say she gave up. She gave up some other things. But she gave up stuff that she really didn't need in the first place. It's an amazing story. That's why she's on board. That's why she married me. That's one of the reasons why, because that made me even better. So what this means is that your budget isn't balanced at this point because, again, there's a surplus. So, again, we're learning to tell our money where to go. So, where would you like that $188 to go a week, every 2 weeks? Now we're going to start ask God. And this is one thing that I really didn't cover a lot, but something that I want to emphasize. There's this idea of whenever I lay out my budget, give first. Give first. Save second. Live last. And I know that sounds I'll just give with whatever I got left over. And if I got some money left over, I'll save some. No. Because in sobriety, we're learning how to stay sober tomorrow because the decisions we make today are going to affect our tomorrow, right? How many people know that? Y'all know that. You know that, though. That's the thing. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Make a bad decision today and see what happens tomorrow. It's going to suck, right? It's going to suck, right? And then it compounds. It gets worser and worser. AA is the only place where that word worser is a word. Because it gets worser. And it's like, what happened? So, on the giving side, how many people are grateful to be sober? Does your wallet prove it? There you go. Does your wallet prove it? Because that's where the rubber meets the road. How many people know that their home group, their clubhouse, wherever they go, costs money to operate? The coffee costs money. The rent costs money, right? And too many people will go. And y'all have seen the charts at your home group. Well, I'll just give $1. People have been giving bucks for 40 years, right? That was the average donation in a basket, 30 years ago? And that's okay if that's where you're at, okay? Really, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's there. And so, Well, I am a big fan of percentage giving. Okay. In church organizations, they do use the word tithing. We'll call it giving. Okay. We call it seventh traditioning. Okay. In the rooms, we call it seventh tradition. And I do believe in percentage giving. Okay. And here's what I'll tell you about giving was that I started out at 1% of gross, not of net, of gross. And here's what happened was that because I know that somewhere somebody said 10%'s that number, okay? And there was no way I could live on automatically starting with 10% and rearranging everything like that. But what I did do, here's what's cool is that every time I went from 1% to 2%, every time I moved 1 to 2, it hurt for one pay period, maybe 2. And it didn't even hurt that bad. It didn't hurt that bad. When I went from 2 to 3, it stung a little bit. When I went from 3 to 4, it was a little uncomfortable, but I was already in that process of giving. And it was my gratitude expressed outwardly. So I love the fact that we can give digitally to things. I mean, how many people send something to AA Central Office every month? Yeah. No, how many people individually do that? I'm not bragging here, by the way. What I'm saying is that I'm grateful that AA does what they do so that I have a group. You see what I'm saying? Same thing with putting money in the basket here. Same thing with you see what I'm saying? Same thing with, the next one is save. How much are you giving to your 401k? How many people have one? And if you don't, how many, you can create your own? I did at my first company when I first came out of school and I got serious about this. The company I was with didn't have a 401k, so I opened an IRA, right? Is that what it's called, the IRA? Whenever you do it, individual retirement account? Yeah. So I was already, and that stuff comes right off the top. And what's cool was that I started small, and every time, this was my little rule. Every time I got a raise, I took half the raise and put it in 401k, and then I gave myself half of that raise. I gave myself lifestyle and later lifestyle. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you see, I did experience and enjoy a lifestyle upgrade, but I also was thinking about the future, planning for the future on that. And I didn't overnight $1,000 a month max out my 401k. I didn't do that. I still don't have my 401k maxed out, which is like $17,000 a year or something like that individually. Is that right? Do you know that number? Right.
Make sure that you're talking to a financial professional, probably an accountant, because your situation is going to be different. I mean, I know people that are putting $65,000 into their 401k, right? It just depends on the situation. So,
okay, all right. So we're getting close. We need to wrap up. We need to get close. We need to wrap up as quick as we can. So debt. What to do about that? So you notice we spent more time on just getting the inventory part and what to do different better, right? Now, debt. I will mention there's one big financial advisor that's on the radio that talks about the debt snowball. That's exactly what I did. I had $20-something thousand worth of student loan debt that was divided up over 5 loans. One was really high and each one was a little different, but they got smaller and smaller. The debt snowball looked like this. Each one of them had a minimum payment. So here, we'll go through here. We'll just use this example right here. All right, credit card 1, owe $5,000. Minimum monthly, $50. $3,800, $38. Mama, come on, guys. Somebody's got a personal loan somewhere, right? Probably should give her $35. Anyway, credit card 3 is $18 a month. We're going to do this debt snowball. Remember, we've got $188 extra every 2 weeks. All right. Minimum payments. Now, obviously, the balances don't go down by how much you give credit cards, okay? But just track with it, okay? Just follow me here. All right. So what we're going to do is, let's see. We're going to send minimum payments to the top ones, and the bottom one, the smallest one, we're going to go after first. Why? Because we need a win. We need a win, okay? And the smallest one is going to be the first win. It's going to be the quickest win, right? Okay. All right. In under 4 months, we can pay off the first credit card. So, okay, sorry, go right above that. In step 5, we found out that we had $376 extra, 188 times 2, each month since creating the budget. Now let's put it to good use. What we're going to do is we're going to take that snowball payment is, let's see, 388. What happened here? Uh-oh. Let's see here. I may have done the math wrong a little bit there. Does anybody, let's be honest here. You get the point. Exactly. Oliver said, pay off the debt with the savings from the budget. Minimum payment plus your extra. Go at that first one. And then take minimum payment plus extra. You've paid that one off. Roll that in. Add it to the minimum of the next one. And go after that second one. My wife had she put it on her refrigerator. All of her debts. Biggest to smallest. And we made it a family affair. And every time she paid one off, she got baby girl to go over there and cross off that bottom one. And that was cool. Now, baby girl knows about debt. She knows about paying stuff off, and she knows about spending money. Now, she is 17, so she still is kind of silly. But just the same, she knows, and she got to participate in it. Does that make sense? Okay. So, I think we're about, you keep rolling that up, and then all of a sudden, let's see, in very short order, all this stuff gets paid off, and man, what a win. When I sent that last check to the last student loan, in the last payment, I was up to paying like $700 a month towards that thing, and I watched it, bam, bam, bam. It just, the total due shrank like that. So cool. So cool. And I want you to experience that. I want everybody to experience that if you're in that situation. So
really quickly.
Yeah.
And remember, I said that I would give you some tricks to help you overcome some of this, right? So debt snowball, still do the same thing. So 2 things to apply to this, back to the inventory. There are countless, and I mean countless. Either if you've got an existing credit card, I'm not suggesting you go out and you get more, but you transfer that credit card to a 0% for however many months. And then what do you do when you transfer it? You do what? You pay it off, but then you take that credit card and you put it in a drawer and you don't ever use it. And you keep paying it. And then while you're doing that debt snowball, right? So you just transferred the smallest balance to your 0% credit card. And then while you put that in the drawer and you started to pay that off with the extra that Alan's talking about, how many of us like to go to, you name your favorite coffee shop. I don't care which brand it is. Doesn't really matter. Right? And you get even coffee in a cup. I don't put anything in coffee, right? Because I'm one of those addicts, right? But I'm serious. At my local coffee shop, my coffee with tip is $4, right? And that's coffee in a cup because I got to get the large, right? At my house, it's 40 cents. So the number of times that you do coffee in a week or a month, back to the inventory, take that extra, put it on that credit card, and that debt snowball is going to go away a lot faster.
Right. Now, did you know that if you cut up your credit card, the debt doesn't go away? Yeah, I know, right? Who would have thought, right? So if you do transfer over that balance to a 0% credit card, cut that credit card up.
No, do not.
Okay.
Absolutely do not. And listen, I'm not trying to be disagreeable.
No.
I'm not, seriously. So don't. And for a couple of reasons, right? Because as far as that credit company is concerned, that's your identity. So don't cut it up. Don't cut it up until it's gone. Because the other thing is, and Alan's 100% correct, is that debt doesn't go away, but guess what else doesn't get turned off ever? That monthly, right? So if you transfer it to an 18-month 0% interest, that 18 months starts as soon as you transferred it, right? You do not cut it off until it's zero or until you call them and say, I'm giving you your last payment, now I'm turning it off.
I didn't say cut it off. I said cut it up.
But that's what I'm saying. Don't cut it up until it is zero, and you purposely call them, because otherwise you may get stuck one time and, well, what am I doing for my payment? Or I can't remember the number because I've had it in the drawer. You have to call the credit card company and say, listen, I need to make a payment, but I don't remember my credit card number. If you cut it up, at least it's in the drawer. You get what I'm saying? Don't cut it up. The only time you cut it up, truly, is once it's paid off.
So one thing that I didn't put on here, and so I apologize again, is what I did before I even started my going after debt was I came up with an emergency fund. I didn't put it in here. It's $1,000 cash. Remember I referred to that earlier? And I still have $1,000 in cash in a safe at my house. $1,000, greenbacks. Okay? That $188 every 2 weeks, you can come up with $376. How many months does it take to come up with $1,000? 3 months. That's right. Then I started going after my debt. Because then Murphy couldn't get me. Because I had $1,000 in cash. And for some reason, he doesn't like to show up when I got cash. So, all right. Tim's got a microphone over here. If there's any questions that are cool with going on the recording. And first one. Thanks for coming, guys. Appreciate you.
Hey, Oliver Alcoholic.
Hey,
Oliver.
Great workshop. I get a lot out of it. My wife were here. Be fantastic. I think you've missed your target audience, however. And you're preaching to the choir in lots of instances. But with that being said, a couple of things.
Hey, guys, really quickly, sorry to interrupt. If you guys could leave the pens, I apologize. Those are registration. I need them.
How do you guys feel about credit cards with cashback options as long as you're keeping your credit utilization like under 10%? I earn a few $100s a year and never pay a dime of interest because I pay off the card each month, but I'm constantly redeeming, $25, $35 cash back.
Sure. I mean, if you're paying it off every month, it's not credit.
Right.
I mean, you really have extended, 15 or 20 days. I mean, it is, right?
Sure.
And that's fine. But yes, cash back, that kind of goes into what I was talking about the Kroger / Harris Teeter thing, right? I mean, yes, it's a $50 annual subscription, right? But at the same time, it's giving me that. Is that?
And it was kind of to Alan's point about the consumables. Like, I do use the credit card for consumables, not because I have to, just because I know that it generates that cash back. And it's paid off at the end, so it's...
So what I'll say is that you still need a grocery budget, okay? Because that's where it'll get out of hand.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying? So still living intentionally. Now, the reason why some financial advisors that are on the radio poo-poo those cashbacks and Sky Miles and stuff like that, because a lot of people can't handle that.
Right.
They fall for because in all honesty, it's a gimmick. They're not banking on you.
Right. Yeah.
They don't make their money on you.
Right.
They make their money on the guy that does like I do. And it's like, ooh, I get points and I'm going to spend more money than I would spend anyway.
Sure.
So if you're doing that, that's fantastic. You're doing a good job.
And the last question is to present this in all seriousness, to present this to a wife, right? a wife maybe that likes Botox or whatever, expensive stuff. What's the end, especially, let's say, if they make a little bit more money than you do? Add that in there.
You're starting to get into some marital advice a little bit here. I'm being serious. I mean,
because as long as, so if the money in the savings account in the 401k is continually increasing, but it's not increasing at the rate it could, the pain might not be there to give you the impotence to start the conversation. So what I'm looking for is on somewhat good financial terms already, but they're not as good as they could be. How do you bring up something like this?
So what's her why? Let me say why I ask, right? So my wife, we have had this conversation. Not only have we had the direct conversation about what's the budget, but we've also had the direct conversation about what's her why. So for her, my wife is all about experience, right? Now my wife, and not to make this again a different conversation, but she's got a bunch of medical things, one of which actually includes medically required Botox, because if not, life is tragically different, which is expensive, right? So we have to build that into the why. So to answer your question about how you approach that with a spouse, it's still the same question, right? So what is it that we need to do? How do we need to attack it differently, right? Because, I still want to go to do all the experience things, right? Find her why, if it's vacations, or if it's Botox, or if it's nails. No, but I mean, do you see what I'm saying? But the thing is that it can't be all of it though, right? And that's where all of us get into trouble. And if that's one of those pain points in conversation, where's the big downfall? What happens? And I'll tell you what I did prior in my last relationship. I just, okay. Right? And I don't talk about it. So you have to bring it up. But once you've gotten over that first conversation, it's, hey, listen, this is painful. I would like to do this with you. Right? And it's not who makes more money.
No, I
Does that
appreciate
answer the
it.
question?
No, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Duran, alcoholic.
Hey, Duran.
So my question's kind of twofold. I recently lost my job. I'll be having income, regular income, shortly. But what's happened in these 3 months is kind of catastrophic from my mindset. I've not been able to make a student loan payment, a credit card payment. I essentially lived on credit for the last 3 months. Everything's maxed out. My bank accounts are overdrawn. I'm drowning, and I really don't know what to prioritize once I have that income back. Is to, dig my bank accounts out was the first thought, but I don't know if that, they're going to, at this point, my gut's telling me 3 months in, I'm on the verge of those accounts being closed, maybe even a repo. I don't know. Insurance is a thing where I can't get to work if I don't have insurance, kind of thing. So my question essentially is, what would you suggest being the priority? I think you sort of hit me over the head with the prayer piece, because I've never really ever thought to put those two things together. But that's my question: is what would you prioritize?
This is emergency room stuff here. Okay, you're in an emergent situation. Okay, communication with people that you owe money to. Communication, a phone call. Okay, hey. The lady that I owed money to at the hospital, she ended up knowing my name. Okay. She knew my name because I made that $10 payment every 2 weeks. And it took me like 24 months to pay off this little bill. Okay? But communication, that's the first point. Secondly, when with the bank accounts, if you're overdrawn and all that stuff, this is what I would highly, and a lot of companies these days want to do direct deposit and all that stuff, but not all of them have to do it. Here's what I would recommend. Just something to think about. Okay, I'm not telling you to do it. Okay, this is an option. And for the first while, get them to write you a paper check, and you go to the bank and cash it and pay your bills. You got to live indoors, and you got to pay your car insurance. You have to, and you got to put food on the table. And if you have that check put in your account and you're overdrawn $300 or $400 or $500, and boom, you're just right. You're still just digging and clawing. Okay, now you're gonna go after that, but you have to pay your bills first. You have to live. You see what I'm saying? That's the emergent care kind of stuff. Okay, and what's super cool is that what's seen in God's economy is that what seems like the worst thing in the world ends up being the very best. And what's so super cool is that you're going to set people free by this experience. God's working in your life. And He put you here. It hurts, doesn't it?
Well, and so because Terry's getting ready to make a great point, and I said it earlier, but to answer your other question, so what's your longest standing credit card? You don't have to give me an answer. I'm just answer that mentally, and then call them up. And I'm just going to give you my experience. When I went to my family and told them that I was a drug addict and alcoholic, nobody was surprised. When I went to my credit companies and I said, listen, I'm in a real financial way, right? Nobody was surprised. And so credit card companies, they are obligated to work with you. And so if you have a credit card company that's charging you 28%, they're obligated to work with you to lower that percentage rate. So you go to your first one first and just tell them, say, listen, I'm in a tough way. So to Terry's point that he's getting ready to make, talk to the professional. In this case, it's that card company. We'll talk more in just a minute, but I've got some other thoughts for you.
And I want to throw one thing in, is that even if you're able to send them some people can, Terry, you might even be able to speak to this a little bit better, but if you send them something, they can't do much for you. They can't do much to you if you're sending them something. If they take $1, you've made an effort. So communication and effort is key. It shows that you're doing something, that you're trying. That's morbid reflection, okay? We need to get, Terry's going to comment on this.
Terry and I'm an alcoholic, and so it's a great question. And your question is a great question, too. And I just want to share a little of my experience. One of the things I had to do somewhere 5 years in sobriety is I had to ask for help with my finances. And I ended up doing a financial inventory with 2 men in the program who were good with finances. We did a budget just like you just went through, and it was a great, opened my eyes to a lot of things, and I had a lot of credit card debt. And they helped me prioritize and come up with a plan. And first of all, just talking to these 2 guys, I didn't open up to anybody about my finances. They were my finances, and I'll do them the way I'd always done them, and that was just out of my pocket, I didn't even have a checking account, but I finally got a job, started saving some money, or I didn't start saving money. I just started making some money. But I got to where I had to ask, my sponsor sent me to a couple of guys in the program, and we sat down one afternoon, and I told them exactly, honestly, what I had money-wise, what I made, and what I owed. And I never did that before in my life. But just talking with them and them showing me how to prioritize my debt, number one, they told me not to even worry about the credit cards right now. You need a place to live. You need food. You need to have a car. Yeah, they helped me prioritize those things first. The second thing is they showed me that there's a budget here, and it's not that scary. Once I saw it on paper, it was not that scary. And the way they talked about it, they gave me a plan, and I followed that plan, man, and it worked. One thing they did help me with is saving. Saving came first from them, because they said charity starts at home. You go out there and you work your ass off. You deserve to pay yourself first, which was savings. So I immediately started right away with that new budget, and part of my budget was saving. I took a percentage of what I made whenever I made it and started saving it. And the principle behind that is you're starting to save, and you've got a pile of money here growing, and you're paying down this debt right here, and eventually you're going to have more on this side than you will on this side. Just things like that. But talking about it was really important. Doing an actual financial inventory with two guys that didn't charge me a thing. They just offered their help. I just had to ask for the help, and we sat down one afternoon. And it's the same thing with my wife. We had a friend sit down with us and do a budget. And it was nice to have him, because she could ask him all the questions instead of asking me. Yes, absolutely. It mediates the situation. And I thought that was really important. That was a good lesson that I learned also, to bring somebody else into this picture and bring their expertise into it. Even if it is a financial advisor that you have to pay for, at least she's going to listen to him. I'm not going to be the one telling her she has to give up this and that. He'll tell her, and it made a big difference. So,
yeah. No, thank you, Terry. And there was a very specific reason why we let Terry kind of chime in on this. Terry's got a lot of experience in this department, and he can tell you a lot more about that outside the meeting, what his why was. Terry has a great why. All right. We're down to the end. Does anybody have anything else? Oh, yeah, go ahead. Hold on one second. Wait for the mic.
I'm Billy. I'm an alcoholic. I came to this session today because I'm 15 years into recovery and just had a second baby, and woke up one day and realized I haven't been paying attention to my finances my entire sobriety. My whole adult life has been in recovery. And I'm realizing I haven't looked at this stuff. And I own a house, I have cars, I have all of it, but I'm looking at my finances, and like half of my income is going to debt payments, and I wake up thinking about it. I go to bed thinking about it. I look at my two sons and my wife, and I'm just like constantly thinking about it. And I'm trying to have some faith in digging out of this hole. I have a PhD, so I owe a shitload of money. I owe a lot of money because of it. And I just didn't think about any of that as I was going through it. Just said yes to all of the debt. So I think that the biggest thing I'm taking from today is bringing God into the picture and praying as I'm going through this process, and not getting into the morbid self-reflection, because that's where I am every morning when I'm looking at bank accounts and stuff like that. So I appreciate this, and I just felt compelled to share a little bit about that and what I'm taking from it. That's all.
Yeah, no, thank you, Billy. I appreciate that. One of the things that is what recovery has done for me is it's helped me redefine things. Okay, a trip, for example, a vacation that we'll pull out a credit card for. Did you know that we'll just use like the Gulf Coast? Did you know that whether you stay on the beach and are overlooking the ocean, or whether you stay 3 blocks in, that the beach still feels the same? That the sand is still the same? You didn't know that? Did you know that the sunset still rises exactly the same way? And how much difference in price is that? You see what I'm saying? Oh, at least times a week with 2 kids and a wife. It's a huge difference. Okay? So, it's redefining some things. It's like, what's really important? And there are times when staying on the beach is important when I can afford it. You see what I'm saying? Me and my wife 2 years ago went on vacation. We went to Panama City, and I was like, well, we weren't trying to go to Panama City. We just ended up there and we stayed off beach. I'd never done that before. And saved $1,000 in a week. Does that make sense? And then what's crazy is that this past summer, a friend of mine that I met in the rooms but comes here, really good friend of mine, we get to talking, and he's part of a membership thing. And we went to Playa del Carmen on his membership, cash. And man, we were on the beach. And it was cheaper than going to Panama City of all places with airfare. And I know we're kind of getting into the details. Hopefully Bernie will cut this out. But do you see my point? It's redefining these things. I really like fast cars and fancy cars. I drive a Toyota Camry that's paid for with 45,000 miles. And it's nice. Is it what I can afford? Is it the payments I can afford and be broke? You see, you get my point, So.
I think for me, that was the hardest part, was letting somebody else know, honestly, just like I was doing my 4th and 5th step. I was just doing it on my finances. The truth about my finances. And let them point out to me, you really don't need this, you really don't need that. But at least I was talking about it and realizing that maybe you're right. But I needed help. I needed to talk about this with somebody else and not try to do it by myself. That was my mistake.
There's this saying, people say nothing grows in the dark, not with alcoholism. You know what grows in the dark? Fungus and mold. Fungus and mold. Death grows in the dark for us. That's why it was so powerful that so many people were in this workshop, that you spoke up, that you spoke up, that he spoke up, that Terry speaks up and gives life to it, shines the light on it, Because in March, when you come back, you'll have a different story to tell, even if it's a small change that makes a big difference. In March, you'll have a different story. And that's what I accept. That just gets me giddy. So me and Terry and Tim, we can't wait to come back because I want to hear that story.
Well, it can be so overwhelming. It really can. You just really have to open it up and talk about it. That's the start. That's the whole start. And then you're going to have some work to do. And it's going to be embarrassing. It'll hurt your pride a little bit and be a little painful. But, man, when I saved that first $500, I was on the fire. See, it motivated me to do more. Yes. When I paid off that first credit card, I was motivated to do more.
Right. And that's why the debt snowball is so important. And that's why, for me, the first goal was that $1,000. Man, you want to know how good I felt? But I'll tell you, and this is the thing, and I get where I have a sponsee who he makes way more money than I do. He's a 6-figure income earner and always has been, and I'm not. Okay, so that number looks different for different people, but I still dare him to put his hands on $1,000 in cash, because even people that make 6 figures struggle to put their hands on $1,000 in cash. And you would think, well, they make $12,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month and they can't put their hands on $1,000 in cash. Well, I have it in my bank account. But all that's spoken for. Does that make sense? You know who I'm talking about. I may not be talking about you, but you know who I'm talking about, right? So, yeah, go right ahead.
I was just going to say, Thomas Alcoholic. I appreciate this workshop this is putting in perspective for me. I can say I got teeth loss and all this, but I've been spending more on others and then what my priorities need to be. So seeing that financial plan and what other people are saying, it really puts this in perspective of, look, if you start with the low stuff first, I can snowball into this end result. So I hope I'm one of the success stories from the guys' workshop, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, we are at the end. Okay. All right, let's well, first, let's go to bed, but let's pray first. I'm tired, man. I'm so tired.